There are 39 people on death row in the state of Oklahoma. This is part 1 of the series. Joseph Fidel Alanis, 2 years on death row. In the April 24, 2018 death of Brittany Young, 27 years old, a Cleveland County jury found 32-year-old Joseph Fidel Alanis guilty of first-degree murder, 1 count of robbery by force or intimidation, and 2 counts of kidnapping. Alanis repeatedly trampled on Young while she was inside her home, killing her. Young, who was an ex-girlfriend, had let him stay with her as he traveled from Texas to Oklahoma. Soon after Young's death, inside one of the Emerald Green's apartments, Norman police responded. After Alanis left the area, a search was conducted. He was located that evening, taken into custody by Oklahoma City Police Department personnel, and transferred to Norman to be questioned. Brenda Andrew and James Pavitt, 18 years on death row. Robert Andrew, Brenda's husband, was shot twice with a 16-gauge shotgun, once by Brenda and once by her lover, James Pavitt. Brenda and Rob were high school sweethearts and had 2 children together. She was a stay-at-home mom and she taught Sunday school. Everything was going great in their family. By the time she hit 40, she developed what some would call a middle-age crisis, and that's when she and her husband decided to separate. Rob visited in November 2001 to pick up the kids, and then he went into the garage to assist Brenda with lighting the furnace pilot. Brenda dialed 911 a short while later. She had been hurt and her spouse had been fatally shot. They were ambushed in their garage, she said to the authorities, by 2 males with guns. Brenda had been having an affair with James Pavitt, a fellow church member and insurance salesman, according to the investigation conducted by the police shortly after the incident. Rob had just purchased a $1 million life insurance policy from James. Additionally, according to friends, Rob had started to suspect something was off with his wife and the insurance salesman and was afraid for his life. Brenda and James were gone when the police arrived to arrest them. The pair was apprehended at the Mexican border 3 months later. Miles Sterling Bench, 10 years on death row. In May of 2012, Bench started working at the Tippy Totem convenience store in the Stevens County community of Velma. He was 21. Around 7:30 p.m., 16-year-old Braylee Henry drove into Velma to pick up something from the grocery store. Henry finished this task and proceeded into the Tippy Totem to get a drink from the soda fountain and some candies. Henry was at the fountain filling a cup when Bench struck her. She was knocked to the ground by a blow from him. Henry was taken inside the store's stockroom after he choked her. She was in excellent form and played basketball for her school. After entering the storage, she retaliated. Bench launched another assault on Henry. He struck her several times. Bench pounded Henry's head, face, neck, and chest mercilessly. Her head hit the floor as Bench pulled her across the room. He stomped his shoe on her upper back, arm, neck, and head. She was killed as a result of Bench's ongoing brutality. She died from blunt force injuries to her head and neck, asphyxiating on the blood in her lungs. Ben then started taking action to hide his crime and escape to California. Henry's body was placed inside a shopping cart and a sack was wrapped around her head. Bench moved the cart outside to Henry's car, covered Henry's body with boxes, and put her body in the back seat. From the store's shelves, Bench took razors, rubbing alcohol, peanut butter, sunflower seeds, and toothbrushes and packed them in the car. He took Henry's car to a somewhat remote location on his grandparents' property, where he pulled out her body from the car. Henry was stripped by Bench down to the waist, revealing her chest through her jacket, tank top, and sports bra. Henry's body was moved to a muddy area of the field, where he partially covered it with grass and soil. Bench entered his grandparents' house, changed out of his shirt, and gathered more supplies for his journey, such as his wallet, footwear, clothes, and hydrogen peroxide. Stanley Bench, Bench's grandfather, saw that it was unusually early for him to be coming home from work, and inquired as to whether he had quit or have been fired. Bench only said yes. He told Mr. Bench he was going out. He went outside and used the water spigot to wash himself. "Pa, I love you," he exclaimed, poking his head back inside the door after finishing. The absence of Bench from the business was looked into by the Stevens County Sheriff's Department. In addition to taking pictures of the convenience store's interior, Deputy Michael Moore also collected a DNA sample from the bloody mess in the storeroom. Deputy David Martin visited Bench's grandparents' house to inquire about Bench's well-being. Lieutenant Chad Powell found Henry's naked body in a nearby field using canine police. Sean Michael Bosey, 11 years on death row. A McLean County jury found Bosey guilty of killing a single mother and her 2 little children at their home close to Dibble. The woman met Bosey online, according to trial testimony, and the two had a brief romantic relationship that Bosey told investigators was not serious at all. According to autopsy results, Katrina Griffin, 25 years old, and her son Christian, 8 years old, perished from multiple stab wounds, while Chastity, 6 years old, perished from burns and smoke inhalation after their mobile home was set on fire. The girl was allegedly stuck in a closet with a chair blocking the door, according to the prosecution. Prosecutors said that in addition to the blood evidence, pawn tickets discovered in Bosey's wallet also connected him to the crimes. They demonstrated how Bosey had sold more than 100 family heirlooms at 7 Oklahoma City pawn shops early on July 23, 2010, during the time the Griffin home was on fire. 42 DVDs and a few games were among those things. The majority of the games had the letters KRG on them. Ronson Kyle Bush, 14 years on death row. The state of Oklahoma sentenced Bush to death for a homicide. Court records state that Ronson Bush shot William Edward Harrington 6 times before killing him. According to forensic pathologist Dr. Inas Yakub, Harrington was most likely lying on his stomach when one shot, the fatal one, went through his back. Harrington appeared to stumble outside before falling, as evidenced by bloody footprints and the trail of blood going away from his mobile home. According to District Attorney Brett Burns, Bush dragged his victim in a heinous and atrocious manner and with extreme cruelty because of the rope that was discovered around Harrington's ankle and the blunt force injuries that damaged his face. Carlos Qua Rodriguez, 16 years on death row. Qua Rodriguez received a death sentence for shooting Olympia Cardina Fisher twice, once in each eye, at their house in South Oklahoma City. After inflicting Fisher, who was 47 years old, a gunshot wound to the eye, he waited for almost 8 minutes before taking the fatal shot to the opposite eye. The second shot was fired when Oklahoma City police were outside the residence. It was shortly after they heard someone scream horribly and beat on a window. In 1980, Qua Rodriguez fled Cuba's poverty to establish a new life in the United States. A drug conviction 3 years later had derailed his hopes of becoming a citizen and relocating to the United States with his wife and son, but this had not destroyed his ambition. When Qua Rodriguez was released from prison in 1988, he put a lot of effort into making a name for himself in Oklahoma City. With Fisher, he believed he had finally found happiness. However, Qua Rodriguez's regret prevented him from experiencing happiness for very long. Fisher distanced herself from him after he accused her of being unfaithful, which increased tension in their relationship. Dustin Davidson, 5 years on death row. The state of Oklahoma sentenced Davidson to death for the murder of the 2-year-old son of his ex-girlfriend. Davidson was meant to be taking care of Creedon Paul Brooks while his mother was at work, but according to court filings, he beat the youngster to death. The child had 49 bruises below the neck, a fractured jawbone, cerebral hemorrhage, and a fractured skull. Despite their split, Davidson consented to watch Creedon while Young was at work. According to the prosecution, Davidson may have hit the child out of resentment that Young was seeing someone else. Daryl Frederick, 8 years on death row. An Oklahoma County jury found Daryl Wayne Frederick guilty of killing his mother, Connie Bernice Frederick, 87-year-old, in the first degree. He was found guilty by the jury of 2 more violent offenses resulting from the same Northeast Oklahoma City incident, and they condemned him to death as well as an extra 26 years. Frederick started fighting with Connie Frederick on March 26, 2011. He used the brick to chase after his niece after she ran out of the house. He went back into the house, and his mother was found soon after with severe swelling to her face and head. She was taken to the hospital, but she passed away on April 30, 2011. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.